Hey guys, so I thought I'd do a quick live stream, probably about an hour or so, just kind of going over my new EP that I've got out at the moment on King Street. So I've got a brand new EP. Deep down inside, on the flip side, is Jack and Jazz, a couple of tracks that I've been waiting for a while to come out. I love them. I've been playing Jack and Jazz for a while, and Deep Down Inside is just, again, another one I've loved playing. So I thought what I'd do in this live stream, really kind of improvised kind of live stream, is just go through the track and just show you how it came about, all the different elements. And you know, if you want, just ask me any questions. I'll keep got the comments going. So yeah, just ask me any questions. If I glide over things too quick, then just let me know, and we'll get through this. Right. So I need to get a lapel mic, don't I? This is it just gets in the way. Right, let's get into the track. So this is the first one. This is Deep Down Inside, and I was trying to think how this actually came about. I think it might have just been, I think it was the Rhodes. I started with the Rhodes to start with, and they are really simple, I think. Let's have a look at the Rhodes. So I've actually used, I think it's some old Rhodes samples that I got ages and ages ago. I bought a Rhodes CD off eBay or something like that, I think it was, and there's just these really gorgeous multi-sampled Rhodes. I've got a sample collection going back years, and I just kind of picked these old Rhodes out, and they just sound really nice. And I don't think I've really done all that much with it. It's just, it's not even a chord. It's just simple stabs. Actually, no, they are chords. These are actually chords. Where did I get this from? Let me have a look, see if I can find it in the browser. No, it's imported from somewhere, but I have no idea where from. So it is a chord. It's a Rhodes chord that I've used. Kept it in the A minor scale, and just been playing around with that, really. And that's kind of, I think, how I started it off. Oh, already a question. When's the EP out? The EP is out now. It's on TrackSource and it's on Beatport. It's doing quite well in the TrackSource chart. I think it's about 25 on the house chart today, which I'm really happy about. Quite a surprise. I'm really glad that you guys are liking it. It's been a really good start to the year. It's been some really good tracks. Some tracks I've been waiting to come out for a while, and it's just nice to see that you guys are liking them. And because I've got my own kind of dirty, kind of soulful jacking kind of vibe, and it's just nice to see that other people like that as well. It's what I like playing in my sets. So that's what I make. So yeah, so the Rhodes are just a simple. I think I literally just started off with those notes, and then probably I built the drums up around that then. So, which is my usual kind of kick. I've got this lovely kind of real kind of hard, rough-edged kick. Nothing particularly special there. It is MIDI-fied because I like playing with MIDI. It just seems to be easier for me to kind of get a groove down, especially with a kick, and changing the velocities and adding some shadow kicks in there. Shadow kicks are when you kind of duck the velocity of one of your kicks to kind of give it a bit more of a kind of a roll almost. It just helps the track just move along a bit more. It's quite common in kind of jack in-house kind of tracks. And then we got so I as I've said in most of my videos, I go in for a lot of kind of loops. I don't use loops necessarily in their full. Having said that, I have used this one in its full. Just as a hat and a clap loop. A lot of mine just don't really stay intact. I kind of take loops, I cut them up, I put them back together, and this might actually have been started out as a more complex loop, and I've cut it and I've joined it back together again, and yeah, I do a lot of cutting up and consolidating. Got a really simple ride there. I've used the LFO tool just to kind of duck it. So the LFO tool, if you haven't seen it, it's basically a sidechain tool. Allows you to automate the volume curve on it. So it just ducks and that really kind of, it helps. So the first note's not quite hitting as hard, because that's what it'd be without it. So just kind of, yeah, it pumps. We've got a closed hat in there. Nothing special really, just a simple closed hat. Most of this stuff I just kind of jam in. So I've got the Ableton Push, and I like to kind of, I've only got the first generation Ableton Push actually. I still haven't upgraded to the Push 2, but I'm secretly hoping that there'll be the new one coming out this year. That's what I secretly hope anyway. But yeah, so I just basically jam stuff in when I'm going along. So I probably just jammed that in as I was going along. I probably changed the hat several times whilst I was doing that. And then we got a kind of jacking snare. Again, just kind of played around with this one. Oh, that's a hat. So it's got the kind of that drum roll thing at the end, very familiar to jacking house. It's just that kind of offbeat snare. And then I think I've got a clap in there as well. I don't know why the clap is not part of the drum bus. I don't know why it's separate. I think it's because halfway through the track I actually filter the top end of the track away, so there's just the clap actually. I think that's on the main breakdown. So if I So if you can see there, I kind of just take the top end of the drums away, but there's just a clap remaining. So it's just a clap on its own. That's why I haven't done it through the drum bus. So yes, that's kind of the drums. There's nothing really kind of special there. The usual kind of jack in house drums. If you've seen any of my courses, any of the things on Sonic Academy, any of my stuff on YouTube, you'll have already seen me make these kind of drum patterns a lot. So the most interesting bits are obviously the kind of bass and the kind of, I suppose, the vocal samples as well. So the bass, I kind of just fit in around the Rhodes. If you look at kind of the bass pattern and the Rhodes pattern, you'll see that the bass kind of almost copies the Rhodes pattern for the first part of the bar, and then it just kind of does this fall. That's kind of my signature on a lot of stuff I've done recently, is this kind of bass fall. So it kind of just goes, yeah. And then I kind of drop it at the end of the bar just to kind of, so that when it comes back in again, you feel it. That's kind of, I like playing around with kind of negative things. So it almost taking something out kind of creates more of an impact when it comes back in, rather than just layering more and more stuff. So just noticed Michael said, when am I next on Sonic Academy? I don't know actually. I've done four courses for them now. Yeah, it's yeah, I don't know when I'm going to be doing another one. They haven't said anything. They haven't said whether they want me to do another one. I'm kind of running out of ideas, because obviously I've done tutorials for all the kind of music that I make. So we've had a tech house one, we've had a classic house one, a jacking one, and I think I even did a progressive house kind of one, which is not the progressive house of now. It's kind of progressive house of maybe 2-3 years ago. So I don't really know what else I could do. I suppose maybe something more towards the garage end, but I'm kind of out of it really. I don't want to do the same video again and again. So the classic house one, that was my last one. That's kind of more the kind of stuff that I'm doing at the moment. But I am looking at doing some more courses. What I'm really keen, and what I keep preaching all the time whenever anybody asks me about starting producing, is that it's really hard to kind of start producing and then produce your own original track as the first track you make. because you've got to find your sound, you've got to learn your DAW, you've got to learn all the plugins, you've got to learn the whole thing, and you've got to be creative with it, and you've got to kind of create this masterpiece or whatever that is going to be your sound. So there's a lot of pressure added on there. So my kind of philosophy on it and how I started is start with edits, start with bootlegs, take that way in it, because if you're a DJ, then you can learn the basics of a DAW like Ableton and stuff, and really kind of put an edit together really quickly, bootleg, remix, whatever you want to call it, and you can use that within your set. Start by just taking a track and then cutting it up, and then work your way into making bootleg, adding more bits into it, and all of a sudden you'll have this kind of your sound almost. And that's kind of why you'll probably see a lot of my bootlegs kind of hanging around, because I always make the bootlegs. That's what I love doing. That's kind of my favorite thing, because they're really nice to play in sets. So I think that's the best way to get in it. And I think at some point I might do a kind of a series of videos of how to do an edit, how to do a bootleg, how to do a remix, and then how to do your original tracks. So kind of working up from then. But I've got a lot of studio work to do at the moment, so we're just going to stick to 1 hour streams at the moment. But hopefully at some point I will. I will get back into doing the tutorials, because I really do love getting into the tutorials, and I get some really good feedback as well. That's why I kind of do these live streams as well, just showing how I make tracks and stuff. So, if you learn one thing from this, then that's good. Right, so let's get back into this, because enough of me waffling. You're here to kind of learn how I've done these tracks, I'm assuming. So I've got some other vocals in here that I've actually chopped up. So we've got a drum rack in here, and actually I've got a whole load of different vocal samples within here.
House music all night. House music.
So I've got a whole load of kind of just, I guess, just one shot. It's almost like mouth percussion. And I've just put them in there, and I've just played them with the touch. So we got that with the push. So we got that in there, and that's just kind of as a main staple throughout the track. It's really simple. If you notice most of my tracks, one of my kind of signature things is I do use vocals quite a lot. So even if it's just cut up samples or whatever, I like using them almost as percussion, because it's kind of just like one of the things I do. One of the things I've always done is use a lot of vocals in there, and it just fills in the space nicely. We've also got some female vocals in here as well, which I think I've done pretty much the same thing. Oh, so I've got a really long sample here. It's actually a really, really, really long sample. Let's try and find it in the browser. Okay, so it's basically what it is I took a sample CD a long, long while ago. It's a really old sample CD, and I took all the vocal samples from it, and I merged them all into one audio file.
Touch me right there. Come on, everybody. Come on, everybody.
They're terrible, like really old, classic 90s house kind of samples. And basically, I loaded it into, I sliced them all up. So there's a beautiful feature. In fact, let me show you how I did this. So a quick one is if you've got a long sample like this, I'm going to put it into a brand new channel. And say we've got a whole lot. This is that audio file I was just going on about. If I solo this, you'll hear it. Turn the volume down a bit.
I feel for you. I feel for you. I feel for you.
So basically, I mean, what I love to do is I'll take a sample like this, for example. I'll just cut it out. So I've got this sample that I'm working with, and then if I just have a look at it, make sure we've got the transients in there. So what I can do is I can split it by every single transient and kind of create some really interesting stuff. So what if I do, if I just right click on this and slice to new MIDI track, I can either do warp markers, which are these yellow ones, but what I'm going to do in this case, I'm just going to use transients. It might not produce the best effect. One of the things I do like doing is warp markers, so you can put a warp marker on each individual bit that you want. So I'll just click on these, and there we go. So I want to split it up by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bits, and then I'll just right click on that, slice the new MIDI track, warp marker. Okay, and then what that basically does is it creates a brand new MIDI track. I'll get rid of this old one with a drum rack in it with all those samples already sliced to the different drum pads, so you've got some really interesting kind of chops. So you can start playing those, and that's kind of how I do a lot of my kind of chopped up stuff. So it's just just loading it into a drum rack like that, and then just jamming away. It's chopped up really finely then. I don't know. Oh, I suppose because it's a really small sample. But yeah, I just like to kind of play around with that stuff. So even if you got like an old sample CD and stuff, and it doesn't sound very good, that's kind of usually where you find the gems for that kind of stuff. You can kind of just, mangle it and chop it up and do all kinds of different things. And that's kind of how I did this, how I get these kind of vocal effects. So I'm just playing 2 bits out of that. So there's loads of bits, and I ended up just playing those 2 samples out of that whole thing. But again, everything all layered together, and it just kind of works. Stuart, you're having a go at me for the way I say transient. Thank you. Okay, I get enough stick about being brought up with a silver spoon in my mouth or something like that. It's just I speak properly. Is that so much of a crime? Well, I don't speak that properly, to be honest. My mum would have a fit. What should we get on to next? I've got no questions. If you've got any questions, then just drop me a question. I'm breezing through this, but if there's anything you want explaining, just let me know. Next up, we got some retro strings. So I don't even know how I came about this. This is just a pad sound that I've put. Trying to think of how I actually came about this. It's called retro strings. I think what it is it's a pad sound that I found a long while ago. Let's find it in here. Okay, so that really horrible high pitched sound, I've then looped up so you can kind of just play it sustained. Then I'm running it through the chord shifter thing, which then builds it into a chord, and it gives you this lovely. Hang on, let's turn up the volume a bit. And actually, we've got the filters all the way on there. So that lovely, that horrible pad that came in at the start has been kind of transformed into this lovely chord, and there's got a phaser going on there, and I've got some filtering and all that kind of stuff. But it really kind of gives that old school kind of feel. Yeah, so it kind of creates this really nice kind of it's got this really nice kind of sweeping pad sound, and I kind of love going for that old school house kind of sound. And yeah, so it's really just, it's built up of this single note that I put through the chord device and a few different things, and created that kind of retro sound. I've got a few of those, literally just sounds that I've built up over the years, and I just store them in my library basically, and just so I can use them. Next up, we got a simple string, and it's just coming from the M1. So got the M1 with Dyna strings. It's really simple for just a single held note. Oh, so it fades in. Again, those held strings are just good for that bit of tension, and it's just a classic element of kind of old school house. It's really low in the mix as well. Just looped up the vocal a bit there.
Deeper and deeper we go.
So that's kind of mostly the track, I think. We got some other little bits in there that were kind of just ambient kind of stuff. So we got some dust in there, which is just like a vinyl sound. Got a jungle sound in there. I like putting that in there. It's just birds. Don't know if you can quite hear that. It's down quite low in the mix. So it's a bit like being in a menagerie when you're bloody on the dance floor. But yeah, it's really low in the mix, so it kind of just creates that kind of ambience. Again, it's one of those things I put in my tutorials loads. I layer up ambient sounds and various different things so that the record doesn't sound too digital and too just too polished, I think. So it's nice to have that kind of rough kind of sound. On the master channel, it's my usual kind of master channel. So we've got what's the first thing out? We've got that's disappeared. Oh, so we've got Trash on the master channel. I like I have been using the Electron analog heat quite a bit, but for this track it wasn't quite working how I wanted it to, and I just reached for Trash, to be honest. I very rarely use Trash, but to a subtle amount it kind of just adds, well, that kind of grittiness to it, that kind of rawness to it. And as you can see from here, I've done it very much towards the dry. There's not too much being affected there, but it just kind of puts that little bit of kind of, I don't know what the sound is. I'm losing it. It's late in the day, and I'm trying to get my words out, and I just can't. So, but yeah, it just makes it sound a bit grittier and a bit less digital. I'll kind of show you how it will sound with a bit more wet, actually, and you'll see how much it affects it. So it thins it out quite a bit. There must be quite a lot of EQ in there, but it's just nice to be able to take the dry wet kind of and just take it right the way down to dry almost, and just add a bit of subtlety in there. Next up, I have the Glue, which is my favorite compressor. I've been using this for years. I put it in all my tutorial videos. It's actually part of Ableton now. I'm old school, and I still use the actual plugin for it because there's a whole load of presets that are really nice. these mastering ones are really good, and it's really subtle. As you can guess by the name, it just glues things together. So I tend to just put one of those presets on and just tweak it a little bit. Usually just a dry wet mix. Sometimes pushing it up a little bit more just to kind of give it a bit more of an effect. Sometimes taking it down a bit more. Just depends on what the track's like and how busy it is. And then finally, I run it through Ozone, which my mastering engineer Stuart will just kill me for. But when you need to do rough masters, then this comes in brilliant. We've got the vintage tape within here, which is really nice. I haven't upgraded to the new version yet, actually, but I will do at some point because I really do love this thing. I still all my masters still go through SE Studios. I can't recommend them, any more than what I do already. They are really brilliant, and there's something about an analog master. So it's not even a case of whether you can do it. Sometimes, I can master my stuff, and I have done for years, but it's just nice having that analog sound. And I don't have a lot of analog gear. I've got a few bits here and there. My master channel these days goes through the Electron Heat, so that kind of that has a kind of a lovely warmth to it that saturates it quite a bit, which is it's a really nice effect. But yeah, there's no kind of substitute for proper analog mastering, and if you're making kind of stuff like I do, that kind of rough kind of sound, it really does benefit from that beautiful warm analog kind of sound. So yeah, definitely check out SE Studios. You'll probably find the link on my page at somewhere. So yeah, if you got any questions or anything, then let me know. I think my Facebook has gone down. The stream seems to be okay, but I think the Facebook is down. Hang on a second. Bear with me. Oh, there are a whole load of questions. Oh, sorry about that. My whole Facebook froze, so I don't even know what's been going on. Okay, I'm going to go back and answer some of these questions. Oh, God, there are so many questions. Hang on a second. Right. Let's go through and answer some of these questions. So I'm going to delve into Facebook now. Bear with me while I try and read and talk at the same time. It's hard for me. Michael, do you tune your kicks to the key of your bass? If your track is in minor, does your kick need to be an A or any kind of key? It depends on your kick and the kind of track that you're doing. Obviously, it is good to kind of have your kicks tuned. Otherwise, they stick out like a sore thumb. Generally, I've been of this kind of school of thought that if it doesn't sound bad, then there's nothing wrong with it. So sometimes, I will say sometimes, an out of key kick can actually help some more, because if you're going, as long as it's kind of within the scale that you're working in, then it kind of almost adds an extra note to that kind of melody, if you get me. So if you got the bass playing two notes and then you got a kick playing another note, that's a chord. So you've kind of got that kind of scale going down. But generally, most of my kicks are quite short and punchy, so they're not on long enough to kind of really kind of affect that kind of tone. I know there's going to be a whole load of people that are going to slate me for that, but I've got away with it all this time and it's been absolutely fine. If a kick doesn't work, then I just change it. And there are times when I'll use there are kick synths that I use. I think Big Kick is one of them I got, which is brilliant because you can take the click and the boomy part of a kick. So the click's that kind of that first initial transient that hits you, and then you got the boom, which is the bit that should be tuned. So you can actually still have the impact and then tune the kick. So if I'm really struggling, then I'll probably reach for something like Big Kick. But I've got a whole load of kicks that I've been using for a while that kind of fit with my stuff. And I suppose I don't actually kind of start each project out thinking, oh, okay, I'm going to do it in this key or I'm going to do it in that key. It's usually from jamming or finding a sample or something that that I think will work, and that's kind of where my starting point. So I don't actually think of a certain key. I'm not there for ages tuning the kick drum, put it that way. Generally, I think if your kick drum's not working, then just try and find another one. You can try and tweak it, but I always just find it easier just reaching for another kick. And I've got a whole load of ones. There's always one that works. So, loving your old school sound by Zach. Thank you, Zach. Yes, that is my kind of sound. I've been producing for years, so it's the kind of that's the kind of house sound that I love. So it's just nice that people, some people are liking it, which I'm really, really appreciating at the moment. Robin, you've been replying to the kick. Thank you for that. There's a lot of talk about kick tuning. Well, yeah. So yeah. I mean, I don't generally do it. No, I usually just reach for another kick, but that's probably just the way I produce. A lot of if you're doing techno and you're doing more kind of clinical kind of beats, then yes, I think a lot of people kind of tune their kicks and stuff. But my stuff is very much rough and ready, so I just jump straight into it. So I don't know if anybody's got any other questions or anything about this track, and we'll move on to the other one. So this is so as I mentioned, this is Deep Down Inside, out now on King Street Records, on Tracksource or Beatport, so you can grab it there. If you check my page, you'll be able to find links to all of it there. So let's open up Jack and Jazz. No, we won't save any changes while that's loading. Any other questions, or has my Facebook crashed again? I got the magic pinwheel of death. Let's try refreshing the page. If anybody can tell me of a way to actually get the comments properly on live videos, seriously, it annoys me so much. Every time I have to reload it so many times. Oh, here we go. I knew this would start a debate. Ozone, the big ozone debate. I tell you what, it's great for rough masters, so don't knock it. And in fact, it's great for normal masters. You can master a track with it perfectly fine, and a lot of people won't notice the difference. For me, I love my stuff to be done through analog, so that's why I choose to have it externally mastered. But yeah. How do I find my vocals? At the moment, I am loving Splice. Splice.com is fantastic, especially if you want to find vocals in a certain key. You can easily, search by key on that. But failing that, I mean, a lot of people go for sample packs, and you start to hear a lot of tracks these days sound quite the same. Generally because everybody's using the same sample packs. Whatever's hot that month, you'll find 5 tracks with that sample in. So my suggestion, and I've got a massive, huge, great hard drive full of samples that I've collected over the last 20 years. I've been collecting samples for so long. So I've got some really old samples in there. But my suggestion is hit eBay, hit Amazon or whatever, and find old sample CDs. If you look at the makes like Zero G, or I'm trying to think of all the old ones. There's loads of old sample banks that have stopped making samples, but you can still buy the CDs. Some of them are quite expensive. I mean, you could be paying 40-50 quid for a CD. Sometimes they're worth it, sometimes they're not. I've been on the philosophy, if I buy a CD, like an old school CD, something that it might have one sample on it, and that'll make it worth it. But sometimes you get a lot of trash, and that's when kind of cutting it up kind of helps, because you can do a lot of stuff with cutting it up, and especially if you're making kind of tech house and house kind of stuff, you can get away with cutting a lot of stuff up and pitching it down and pitching it up. I've taken some really, really crap vocals, like really crap sample packs, bad singers, like you wonder how on earth they're on the sample pack. You pitch them down 3 semitones, 4 semitones, and all of a sudden you've almost got a cool vocal. Like you've just got to think outside the box. That's that's the thing with it. So stream. Your stream isn't breaking whilst you are doing that, though. Oh, what? Trying to do the browser? Yes. Yeah. I seriously. Is there some way to kind of just view comments? Just comments. I don't need to see the video. I don't need to see myself. Is there any way to just see the comments? It's really frustrating. But anyway, let's get on with Jack and Jazz. So the second track on the EP that is out at the moment. Plug. This is I really love this track. This was my favorite on the EP. I shouldn't say that, but this is my favorite. It's the B-side, but it is my favorite. Always got a kind of thing for old jazzy kind of jazzy kind of house, and that's kind of where this was founded. I'll play a little bit for you. So for me, that I just kind of love those kind of road sounds, those kind of soulful house sounds. So if you're listening to most of my stuff, you'll find kind of soulful elements just kind of creeping in somewhere. So I try to keep, obviously a lot of my stuff I like to be kind of dance floor kind of aimed, because obviously I want to play them in my sets, but I like to have those elements of kind of cool jazziness about it. And I think probably this is where it started out. I think I started out with a vocal on this one, so let me find the vocal. Is it this one? As you can see, I've really well named all the layers within here, so I know exactly where everything is. Is this a vocal? Yeah, so I think I found this vocal first. Yeah. So I think this was just part of a pack somewhere. I don't know which pack it was, but I really kind of just loved that kind of sample, and I kind of built around there. So we have got this nice, really nice kind of synth stab as well. As I say, I kind of just built it up, and I think this is one where I kind of use splice quite a lot. So once you kind of find your key, you can easily find other samples within that key using splice, and that's generally where I kind of I've been reaching into quite a lot. Doesn't mean that you can't mix and match and find old stuff and mix old stuff with new, but splice is great for really kind of finding the right key for vocal, for a sample, for a synth shot, and generally, I think there's a lot of stuff going on with here that I probably got from Splice, but generally I kind of come up with the track first, or most of it, probably about 60-70% of the idea, and then it might just be missing something. And if you've already got your key going, then so you kind of just reach into Splice, say, okay, I want a vocal in F sharp. What can you give me? And then it will come up with a whole load of stuff, and you can just audition it like that. That's kind of why I like Splice so much. Kind of missed that actually out the Ableton browser. I thought they might bring in kind of key browsing within the Ableton, but they haven't, which is a bit of a shame. But so what kind of stuff we got in here? So I'll go through the drums again. We got the kick separate on this one. Again, I think it's the same kick. No, I think it might be a different one. It's just a slightly boomier kind of kick. I've cut a bit out of it with Neutron, so I kind of use a combination of Neutron and Isotope for most of my kind of EQs. Neutron is fantastic because you can duck one thing with another. I think I did a tutorial on it a while ago, or I might have pointed out in one of my live streams. But you can use two instances of Neutron, and one can interact with the other. It's fantastic. It really is good. definitely have a look at Neutron from Isotope. It's really fantastic for that kind of stuff. But the main use, I love the EQ. The EQ is so nice and easy. It really feels good, and I'm kind of used to it. It's really good for my kind of stuff. So the kick is boomy. Not really too much going on there that you need to know about. We got a whole load of different samples within here. I think, yeah, again, this is another sample, another loop that I would have taken, chopped up, and then joined back together again. So it looks like an actual sample, but it's something that I've used and chopped up. And just a hat and a clap. I love auditioning top loops. If you're in the mix and you're kind of trying to come up with an idea really quickly, top loops are a really good way to kind of get that groove going quickly. And I find it easier to kind of listen to a top loop in with the track that I'm kind of mixing than just auditioning like a separate clap or a separate hat. I just find it easier that way. And with Ableton, it's just really easy to do that. And then what you can do is just pick the bits out that you want or that you don't want. Then we've got hard hat in here. Yeah, so just a really simple hat pattern. And another hat. There's actually 4 hats in here. Oh, we've got a nice little 16th going on. So this kind of gives it that kind of ride, that kind of jazziness. So it's a closed hat that's just got this kind of swing to it. It's really low in the mix though, so you don't really hear it all that much, but it just kind of adds a bit of shuffle to it. And then finally we've got a ride going on there. It's not well, it's got a little bit of a ride there, but it's mostly just an open hat. Again, it's just a combination of all these hats and all these samples. We've got a bass in that group for some reason. The bass itself, actually, that came from... So that's one out of the copyright pack. I love... If you ever check out, if you can, one sample pack that I must recommend above all others. Copyright, the Defected Copyright sample pack. It is really fantastic. The samples are great, but for my money, the bass instruments and some of the synths as well, but mainly the bass instruments are fantastic. They're all sample based, but they really work really nicely. Let me kind of have a look at some of the questions actually, because I always kind of miss most of these questions, and actually the comments are all working at the moment, which is good. Yes, I have OCD, but not when it comes to Ableton, by the looks of it. No, I don't label anything up. All of them are odd colours. They're all over the place, but that's just the general chaotic way that I work. How long does it take to get most of the track down? So when I'm coming up with an idea, I'm starting with just the loop. So I kind of start off with a loop, but I want to get out that loop as soon as possible. So if I'm working on that kind of loop for more than an hour, then it will just annoy me and it won't go anywhere. So I kind of want to get a loop done within an hour, and then I move on to the kind of rough arrangement. So by loop I kind of mean the kick, all the kind of drum sounds, a bass line of some sort, some synths, and possibly some vocal samples as well. Just a rough kind of feeling of where the middle of the track is going to be. So there might be stuff that I might build up to, then there'll be stuff that I strip out at the start, but generally the kind of middle is what I kind of work on. So yeah, I like to work quickly, because if you're listening to the same kick drum for an hour, you know, you're trying to tune that kick drum or trying to get that hat in the right kind of shuffle and stuff like that, then you kind of really lose the will to live very, very quickly. So I try and get my ideas going really quickly, and otherwise I get bored. I think I just get bored with it and I just move on to something else. You spend enough time listening to a track, and then by the time it's actually out and in the shops, you're kind of bored, because you've been listening to it about 5,000 times in the studio, and then you've played it 100 times in your set, and then finally it gets released and you're like, oh okay, yeah, so that's not new anymore to me. So that's generally why I try and get the track done as quickly as possible, generally the idea down as quickly as possible, and then I'll road test it over the course of maybe a couple of months, and each week I might come back and tweak a little bit of it. There might be a bit missing, or the arrangement might not be right. It might be a bit too long. I can kind of see the reaction in the crowd, so I can kind of see if it's, I suppose, if the crowd's getting bored, if there's something not happening, or if there's not enough bits going on, or maybe this one bit is really, really good, but it happens too quickly, so I might stretch it out a bit longer. So yeah, it's that constant testing that takes the longest part. But generally, try to get ideas down track down within about 3 or 4 hours. That's not finished, but that's just generally getting a rough arrangement down and most of the track down, so you've kind of got an idea of where you're going. After that, it's all the fun stuff. It's all the fun stuff of just chucking, interesting bits in, chopping it up and kind of getting in there, tweaking it all and stuff, going through each individual bar and just kind of seeing, I can do this bit and that bit and this bit and that bit. So yeah, that's kind of where I kind of spend most of my time. Jim, thanks. My drums are mint. Yeah, thanks for that. I've spent a while actually kind of tweaking that and trying to get the sound that I want to. And it's going more towards that kind of old school house kind of sound. So it is, funnily enough, it's just about making sound grittier and not as polished, which when you spend most of your production career trying to make things sound better, it's kind of illogical trying to make stuff sound worse, if you get me. But you kind of have to not think about it as much. And it's just a case of, as I say, I've been collecting samples for years, so it's just a case of finding out what works best, and then going from there. Right, let's jump into. Is there any other? No. How many tracks do you make a week? It depends. It depends how. If I've got a studio day, then I might spend a whole day on one track, and I'll be pursuing it because I want to get it right. It might be a real pain in the ass. But on the other hand, I could come up with 3 ideas in one day. So it really depends on and how you feel in that day. There are days that I've actually spent 3 or 4 hours, not really come up with much, and just thought, nah, today's not the day. I'm pushing it and nothing's happening, so I'm going to walk away and come back another day. So yeah, don't put the pressure on yourself. Don't feel like you've got to come up with a track if you're in the studio. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes we have good days, sometimes we don't. I've booked studio days, I've gone to other bigger studios just to have a different change of environment, and not really come up with anything. Sometimes it's just luck if you come up with the idea that's really great. It doesn't, for the amount of tracks that I make, the amount that come out, it's completely opposite. So yeah, don't put pressure on yourself. When you've got the track, it'll come. You'll find the right track. The most important thing is making tracks. The more tracks you make, the better you become at it. It's just simple. Next up, let's have a look at some other stuff. So I've got a jack in snare in there. Again, it's just an end of the bar kind of snare. Again, just adding that kind of jacking stuff to it. More vocals. That's definitely been cut up in some way, so that must be a part of a sample that I've used, or it might be reversed or something. As I say, this has been consolidated, so it's been taken from a sample, it's been cut up, it's been reversed, it's been put back together. God knows how I came up with it, and that's how I do most of my stuff. That's why half of this stuff isn't labeled, because I basically just do something. Magic might happen, and that's it. It's done. It's there. It's that's the idea. So you got to just kind of play around with stuff until you kind of come up with something decent. So I'm trying to think of what else is in here. It's a really kind of simple track. There's not too much elements in here. We've got, where's the Rhodes? The Rhodes are somewhere here. Got the bass. Got the synth. What haven't I gone over? This is the M1. Oh, so we've got more strings in there. Again, just a held string from the M1. Exactly the same as the other track. Can't find the Rhodes. There are Rhodes within here, aren't there? Or are they on the next bit? Oh, I'm soloing. That won't help. We're on the wrong breakdown. That's why I can't find the bloody roads. Oh, we've got these beautiful roads. So as I say, I really kind of like that kind of warm, soulful house kind of road samples. And that's, again, I think just a simple, it's from an old sample CD I found. I think it was actually on eBay. It'd be one of these eBay finds, like road samples or something like that I found. And it's basically a multi-sample. So if I go into the zones, you'll see that all the samples are set up there. In fact, there's not even that many samples. 6 samples in that, so it's not even that much of a multi-sample. Quite of a cheap job, really, but it really works nicely. And again, I've stacked it up with the chord device. The chord device is fantastic. I can't recommend using that more. What I've got within here, I've got a whole load of presets that I kind of use. So the ones that I've already come up with, so we've got minor 7ths, minor 9ths, minor 11ths. The higher you go, kind of the more notes you add, the kind of more soulful it becomes. And definitely for Rhodes pianos, like the minor 9ths and minor 11ths really create a lovely sound. And like I'm using the built-in Ableton auto filter just to kind of filter it up. So like when the filter's down, it's got this really nice warm sound to it. And just to kind of add a little bit of character to it, you can see this really strange kind of EQ curve I've got on here, just to kind of really boost those high frequencies. So it really kind of sounds tinny in the top end, and I've taken a lot of the bottom end out of it as well. Rhodes carry a lot of weight in the bottom end, so that's why I've kind of cut it from the bottom there, and then I kind of bring it in with the low pass filter. And again, I've just got the LFO tool on it, which is just ducking it. So it's just acting like a side chain, just to kind of get a bit of movement, really. So is there a kick going on there? I think there is, isn't there? I love those vocals as well. They were a kind of a last minute kind of thing. So these ones here. So again, I found these on Splice. So I worked through most of this kind of track, coming up with different bits, and then I knew that the track was in F sharp minor. So I just did a search on Splice and came up with vocal samples in F sharp minor. But of course, you come back with samples across the board. You don't have to look in house samples. So I think it says Cyvox. It's 138 BPM. So I'm guessing it might be they might be trance vocals. I'm not sure. But what I've done is I haven't even warped them. They're literally, as they came out, 138 BPM, but they kind of just work. They kind of even just work just at that. So they're kind of atmospheric kind of vocals. They're not in time vocals, if you get me. So, and I think actually, so I've not even done any processing on them. It's not like I'm side chaining them or anything. They are literally just as they came. So it's that really kind of nice soulful sound. As I say, I try and work that soulful sound. Even though I've got that kind of gritty edge to my music, I like having that soulful sound in there. And then right at the end of the breakdown, it kind of comes back. It comes right back into the main beat. So we've got that nice kind of snare roll going on. So that snare roll actually came, I think I got inspiration from that from the Frankie Rizzardo Defected pack, actually. I think there was a snare roll in there, but I didn't like the snare. So I basically did a sample to MIDI. So I took the sample, transposed it to MIDI, and then played it with a different snare sample. So it works. It's just the sample fits in better with my track. So that's always a good thing. There's loads of little kind of features in Ableton that you can really make the most to be quite creative with. So I think that's about it. I don't know if there's probably a few bits that I've missed on this, but I was trying to just pick out the most important parts. You've kind of if you've seen any of my tutorials by now, you would have known, how I produce most of my stuff. So I didn't want to kind of go over old ground too much. And if you've seen any of my other tutorials, then you'll kind of know how I produce and what kind of stuff I use and my techniques and stuff. So I just kind of wanted to kind of give you an insight as to kind of, how the tracks came about, what kind of, samples I use, where the ideas came about. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed that. And as I say, if you've got any other questions, I can't see any questions at the moment. But I say you're more than welcome to ask me questions. I'll keep it open for the next 5 minutes. So if anybody's got any questions or anything specific, I'll have a quick look through actually. Alright, Stefan. Alright, Stefan. I find the issue is getting the mix down correct. What would be your suggestion in setting up my room to get the best sound pre-master? Getting the best sound pre-master. For me, I mean, you can see with this, I've got this really tiny little studio. Let me give you a quick look around. So this is my desk. It's a really kind of small desk. The actual kind of layout is really, it's not, I haven't got any kind of sound proofing going on or acoustic proofing or anything like that. I've got used to the fact of how my room sounds, so I kind of know what I'm tweaking, if you get me. Like, if you know how I've been doing it so long, and I've been producing in this room so long, which is why I don't want to move out this room. I've got other rooms in the house that I can use, but I know the acoustics of this room. So if you know the acoustics and you know the speakers you're using, and you kind of know the sounds that you're using as well, so you can quite easily train your ears to kind of know what sounds good and what sounds what doesn't. And one of the best things is, if you are playing out, if you're a DJ and you're playing out, then take one of the tracks you've done, pre-mastered or mastered, preferably just try and master it, put a limiter on the channel just to get it up to the same kind of volume standards at least. Take it out to the club and just see how it sounds, and then it's just a case of going back and forwards. So like, if you're in the club and you think, oh, it sounds really bassy, then you've got to tweak the bass for next time, and you'll get to a stage where you just kind of know the frequencies and your speakers and everything else like that. That's not to say that you shouldn't soundproof your room. Soundproof your room by all means. I haven't got around to it. I keep meaning to do it, but it's just something I've never got around to. And also get a good pair of headphones as well. So I have not got them with me. I've got some, I can't remember what headphones I got. It's gone completely out of my brain. Yeah, get some good studio headphones anyway, because if you're producing late night, then it's definitely a good thing to get some good studio headphones. But yeah, just learn your monitors. If you listen to... the best thing actually is to get some reference. So, get some tracks that sound good, the ones that you're playing in your sets or whatever like that, and play them through the monitors. Kind of see how they sound. One of my favorite plugins is actually from Sample Magic, and it is the Magic AB. So on your master channel, what you can do is just drop Magic AB on your master channel. And basically what this allows you to do is it allows you to load other tracks. So you can click to load a track, and I've just got to find them on my hard drive now. So I've got a folder full of tracks that I kind of like the sound of, stuff that sounds like mine does, kind of thing. and I can just go from there. So let's try a Mad Villains track, for example, Mad Villains West Coast. So I can load that in here. And what I can now do is I can actually play them both back at the same time. So I can play my track back. And then what I can do is I can switch between the two of them. Now, obviously, one might be louder than the other. Obviously, if you've not got any mastering on your master channel, then it won't sound as big as the track you're kind of comparing it to. But it definitely comes in handy, this kind of A-Bing. And you don't necessarily even need this plugin to do it. You can just do it, manually. If you just have like the track on another channel. It comes a little bit harder, but I'd recommend if you really want to kind of get into that kind of referencing aspect, then check out Sample Magic's Magic AB. Definitely, it's a great bit of kit. It really is. I use it quite occasionally. If I'm just kind of struggling, if I know I'm trying to nail a certain sound, then I'll get some reference and I'll kind of just keep referencing it and seeing, just kind of seeing what's different, what I need to tweak. So yeah, if you've got no acoustics and you're not sure about your room, use something like that. Use reference. And then you'll just gradually get there. It's just about just doing it, just listening to loads of stuff. Phasing of the hi-hats from layering. Yeah, I mean, you can obviously get that if you've got a lot of the kind of same hi-hats kind of happening. So if you're using a lot of like 808 samples and stuff and they all kind of sound very similar, then yes, that can happen. And generally what I don't really kind of fight the phasing. I just kind of remove whatever is phasing. So if you know something's phasing, then just get rid of it. If it's phasing, then you've got two of the same things happening, which you don't really need two of the same things. There are various different techniques you could do. You could take one of those hi-hats, maybe just nudge it down by, I don't know, a few by semitone or something like that, or just even a few cents up or down, just to kind of create that separation. You could also even just left and right pan it slightly, but then obviously you're talking about the stereo mix, and again that might not quite work. But I'm in a firm believer, if it's not working, don't spend ages just trying to just hammer it away. I mean, granted, if it does sound good but just needs a few tweaks, then do it. But generally, if it's not working, then take it out. You're wasting your loads of time on something that's maybe not working. So that's generally what I'd do. That's how I'd handle any phasing of hi-hats. With all those hats that I've used in this track, they're generally all different. They've all got kind of a different sound. They're hitting almost at the same time, but they are just slightly different sound. I think I did a bit of panning actually, left and right maybe. I'm not quite sure how I got around that, but they didn't cause an issue on this track. But yeah, if you have phasing, just get rid of whatever's phasing. Bruno, my stuff reminds you of the kind of Chicago house sound. Well, thank you very much. I love the Chicago house sound. That's my kind of sound. I love old school kind of house, and that's kind of what I always kind of, that's my love for it. So yeah, it's that kind of rough house kind of sound, but with that bit of kind of elements of soulfulness. Yeah, I love it. That kind of US house sound. Will you see me at Nostock Festival this year? I hope so. I had so much fun playing Nostock this year. Nostock was amazing. So I'll have a word with the guys, and hopefully we'll be able to get out there this year for it. It was a lot of fun, and hopefully we might be able to get out this year and play that again. Dane says, am I using any hardware or do I work in the box? So most of my stuff is in the box. However, I do like running it through the analog heat. So on my desk here, I have the analog heat, which I usually run through the. It depends really. Actually, I either run the drum bus through this and then back into my DAW, or I run the whole master channel through it, just on a little bit of saturation, just to kind of give it a bit of warmth. So if you've not seen the analog heat before, basically what it is it's kind of a distortion unit, I think, with analog circuitry in it. So you can run signals into it. It will go through all those lovely warm all those kind of warm circuitries, and it will kind of give you that more analog sound. I suppose it's faking it to some extent. I mean, it is kind of taking a digital. It is originally digital, and then kind of making it analog, or giving it that warmth from the analog. But it does work really well. It kind of adds that kind of character to it. And if you do, I mean, my stuff benefits from it greatly, because you've got things like saturation. Like one of the presets on there is classic distortion, which is they've all got different. I'm not explaining this very well. There's loads of different kind of circuitries. So the circuitry is like kind of the different ways it can transform your music. So it kind of the different ways it can distort it. And one of those kind of methods is classic distortion, and it kind of really adds a grittiness to it that you really can't get from just in the box digital. On Deep Down Inside, I used Isotope Trash, and that works really good as a distortion kind of unit, but a lot of my recent stuff are going all through the analog heat, because it just gives it a warmth. It's hard to explain exactly what it does, but it gives it a warmth that it kind of gives it rounds a lot of the sounds off. So digital sounds very harsh, but the analog heat kind of gives it a lot of kind of warmth. But apart from that, no, I haven't really got any hardware stuff at the moment. I use the Ableton Push as a controller, but generally no. I've got some stuff on order though, some more Electron stuff, because I'm loving their equipment at the moment. So hoping to get one of those, some more of that stuff later. But generally no, most of my stuff is in the box. So yeah. All my comments are all. I think. Oh no, the comments are back. Sorry, I keep having issues with the comments on Facebook, so sorry if I keep missing it. It keeps... Oh, the video's now stopped. That's great. I think it's because I'm using Safari. It's terrible. Right. Where did I buy my Deep Down Inside sign? Oh, that's just one of those... that's just one of those light boxes. It's this thing. You know, you just change the things. It's just one of those. I don't know. I can't remember who bought. Somebody bought it for me. I can't remember who. But yeah, it's great. It's good for reminders actually. When I've got a track coming out, then I usually put it up as a reminder, and then I know what I'm pushing. Oh, now it's Deep Down Inside. Put that back. Yeah, plug.